Hey, look who it is. It's your old movie buddy Ed South back in the What's Your Favorite Movie Studios. And I, of course, thank you for being on the other end of this equation in your What's Your Favorite Movie listening position. I don't know what that means. So it's been a while since we've done a show. I think in the world of low-grade unprofessional podcasting, sometimes you end up recording a show and you don't realize it might be your last for a while. Things happen, especially when you're not getting paid or motivated to do the show. But I enjoy doing this program. And basically what happened was we did our last show in March of last year, 2019. And I just got nothing with the show. That was a great episode. And go back and listen to it by all means. Episode 55, I believe it was. I just got tired of the publicity end of the deal. You plan a show, you get the guests, you do all the planning, the research, the notes. And, yes, there's research involved. And you record it, and then you get it up on the internet and do the graphics for it. And then it's just like this endless stream of tweeting about it and Instagram and trying to shove it in people's face. And I just got so tired of it, and I just took a break. But the point is, the show is about having fun, and I do enjoy doing the program, and it's been a while, so here I am. And we've had a little trouble lining up some guests to join us, but that's okay. We can make it happen. We will forge through this forest of despair, as it were. I have no idea what I'm talking about, but you already know that. And thanks for tuning in for more of it. So this time last year, I said I was going to do 10 new episodes, and I got through 5. So I'm shortening the order to 6 this year, and I'm really going to try to do at least 6 shows, and then we'll reevaluate where we are and see what's going on. But 6 shows, we should be able to do it. I've got some stuff planned for down the road. But this show, we're going to do our annual favorite movies I saw in 2019. Actually, other years it's been the previous year. But this year, favorite movies I saw in the calendar year 2019. Some other podcasts or movie blogs will call this film discoveries. And let me explain the rules and regulations. This isn't the best movies of 2019 because, number one, I don't claim to see everything that comes out. I don't even see a majority of what comes out in a year. I do enjoy watching the movies. I watch a lot of them, but I enjoy finding old movies and discovering things. So I'm not one at the theater every week watching whatever explosion-filled movie or nerdy film fest film has come out. I watch all kinds of stuff. So this is things that I saw in 2019 for the first time that were my favorites of the whole year. I think that makes sense. Not the best, not everything, just my personal favorite film discoveries. Have I explained it enough? I think I have. Folks, grab a pencil and paper. Let's write down some movie titles that you might want to watch. And please, as always, no wagering. And we're going to start off with number 1. And this list is not in any numerical order, even though I just said number 1. But it is in alphabetical order for reasons that I've decided to keep private. So here we go. And right off the top of my list, get ready for a shocker. Get ready for a mind-blowing title. But my first film is a Disney film. I love the Disney films. And this one's kind of funny because I wasn't expecting to even see it or like it. And I did end up at a screening of Aladdin, Disney's brand new live-action remake of Aladdin. I love the original one, and I say to myself, do I need another version of it where it's less colorful and less funny? I don't think so. But Disney put out 5 remakes, live-action remakes of their own films this year. And this was earlier in the year. In May, Aladdin came out. It was directed by Guy Ritchie, who did like Sherlock Holmes and Snatch, which I think we've spoken about on this show before. And of course, Will Smith, the Fresh Prince, played the genie, and he wasn't blue in the entire movie like everyone was afraid he was, and he looked fine when he was blue. Genies are blue. What are we going to do? And here's what I really liked about this movie. Again, I did not expect to like it. I saw the trailer and I was like, I don't need that. And then my daughter said she would go see it, so I will take any chance to go to the movies with her because she never wants to see anything. So we went and saw it. And what I really liked about it is it knows that you know the story of Aladdin, the movie. I mean, it's based on the movie, and it knows that you know that movie beat for beat because everyone's seen Aladdin 3,000 times. So while it does regurgitate some of the original film as far as staging the musical sequences, which were all fantastic, but it zips through the story at a different pace and maybe slows down where the animated film sped up. Does that make sense? So it like fills in some holes, and it sticks really closely to the story of the movie, but it just comes from a different angle, and some things that you know happened in the first movie they can just allude to and skip by, and it makes the pace quicker. And this movie, the 2019 Aladdin, is a half hour at least longer than the animated film, but it was a brisk pace. The musical numbers were, dare I say, exhilarating. It was just really, really fun. Really, really good movie. Great performances by everybody. I think some of the other Disney remakes either ignore the original movie and try to do their own thing, which I don't think is good, or they just go off the rails and, again, do their own thing. This was really, really, really good. I really, really liked it. Probably my favorite of all of these live-action remakes that they've done so far. I liked the Cinderella they did a few years ago, and I saw the Lady and the Tramp that they did this year. That was cute. It wasn't mind-blowing or anything, but it was cute. I haven't seen Lion King yet, but if you haven't seen the new Aladdin and you have some apprehensions because you're a big fan of the original, I say you should check it out. I think you will really like it. Pays respect to the first movie, and you can find that right now on Disney Plus streaming service if you have that. So that's Aladdin. Number 2, our second A movie. Now we're going to go from a cartoon remake to some history documentaries. How about that? I have a few documentaries on my list, and this one came out in March of 2019. It is Apollo 11. Apollo 11. Mark your scorecards. This is a documentary about the Apollo 11 mission to the moon, which was led by Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, Michael Collins. And what this movie does is, I mean, first of all, there's two things that make a good documentary: a compelling story and then competent, exciting filmmaking. That's my opinion. So when the two of them come together, that's when you have a phenomenal documentary, because you can make a documentary on a really fascinating subject and just have talking heads and pictures or whatever. And you can also make a really good documentary about something that's not too interesting. But when the two of them come together, you know what I'm saying. And Apollo 11, what it does is it's completely made up of already existing footage. I don't think a single frame of this movie was shot for this movie. It's all taken from newsreel footage, NASA archive footage, news reports, 8mm films, etc., and they take all of that. It's all remastered, so it looks brand spanking new, beautiful. You've never seen old movie footage look this crisp, and I was lucky to see this on the screen, on the big screen. I think everybody has seen it on a screen, but I don't know if it would do it justice on a TV. Probably it'll still be awesome, but on a movie screen, it just looked really good. You've never seen amateur old footage from the 60s that looks crystal clear like it was shot yesterday, except, of course, the cars are humongous and everybody's dressed like a dork, but you get the picture. So what this movie does is picks up, I believe, a couple of days before the launch or right before the launch, and it just lets the whole mission play out in not real time because they were up there for a few days, but just at its own pace. And a lot of it is kind of narrated by Walter Cronkite. Again, nothing was recorded for this. They're just using CBS News footage. They use control room back and forth banter over the microphones, and it's all spelled out and laid out, and it makes perfect sense for someone who's not too bright like myself. And it was just absolutely captivating to watch them go up to the moon and put the flag down and all that good stuff. And if you you think you know about the moon landing, but watch this and you'll really learn a lot more. And there's none of that, mumbo jumbo about it being fake or whatever. I mean, this is the real deal. Beautiful, excellent film. Apollo 11. It's rated G. Sometimes you can find it pop up on CNN, and it's also available on Hulu, apparently. By the way, all my Hulu suggestions or recommendations are going off the internet because I do not have the Hulu, so I can't verify that, but that's what I'm being told. So Apollo 11. Another documentary for number 3, and this one's a sillier documentary. And I've said this before on the show, when a documentary goes right towards something very, very, very specific that you're interested in, bang, it is a amazing time at the cinema. And this 2018 film, Bathtubs Over Broadway, did it for me. One of my all-time favorite TV shows is Late Night with David Letterman, back when he was on NBC at 12:30. And they used to do this bit, and I think it carried on into when he was on at 11:30 on CBS. They used to do this bit called Dave's Record Collection, and they would play little bits and pieces of records that they found that were just odd and bizarre, because back in the day before VCRs, records are where you would get weird, extreme programming like exercise things or speeches or just all. I mean, that was the main form of home media, was records. So on the Letterman show, they would do these crazy bits. Now, this documentary is made by a guy named Steve Young, who was a late night writer, and he would go out and find these records for Dave's show and pull the clips. And one of the things that he discovers while he's out doing these are corporate musicals. And these were a thing that was big in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, where corporations would put on big, expensive, lavish musical productions for their employees. Like, say, your dad worked for GE, and every year he spent a week in wherever GE's big plant is, and they had a big convention, and everybody settled in one night and watched the GE story, a big musical play about GE. Or it could be McDonald's or DuPont, Xerox. All these companies put on big, lavish Broadway-style musicals about their company, and they're absolutely, especially looking back at it from today's standpoint, absolutely ridiculous. And from finding these records deep inside thrift shops and record stores, Steve Young grew this passion where he collected these records and found out more about the art form of the corporate musical. So this is a great documentary. Slowly rolled out in 2018. It hit Netflix, I believe, in February of last year, and it's still there, so you can check it out on Netflix. And it has appearances by a lot of familiar faces, including David Letterman, which is fantastic. Martin Short's in there. And again, just a really fun movie. I love films about people with a passion, and they get to dive deep into that passion. So it's really cool. It's on Netflix. Check it out. It reminds me of another film that I speak of highly called Jingle Bell Rocks, about a guy who collects Christmas records and other people who collect Christmas records. Jingle Bell Rocks you can find on Amazon Prime, and I highly recommend it. I've seen it many, many times. So that's Bathtubs Over Broadway. Mark that on your scorecard. Number 4 on my list is a film, surprisingly, that's ended up on Real Critics' top 10 of the year. That doesn't happen often, a crossover on my list, but it is a fantastic film. 2019's Booksmart, directed by Olivia Wilde. And this is a high school movie. I have a fondness for the high school films, as lots of us do. and this is super good one. Stars Caitlin Dever, Beanie Feldstein. You got Jason Sudeikis in it, who's married to Olivia Wilde. I think Olivia Wilde pops up in it also. And this is about two girls who decide on the last day of school that they have wasted their entire school career being studious, playing by the rules, studying, not getting involved with parties or trouble, and they decide on the last night of school they're going to go out and have one big night out of partying and get crazy and see what happens kind of stuff before graduation. It's a subject that has been done before, no doubt, but this is done with buckets of creativity and uniqueness, and it is such a cool movie. You have to see it. It takes so many twists and turns that were unexpected, and it is a really, really good movie. Again, why it's ended up on so many other critics' lists. The Crazy Night Out formula has been done before, in my opinion, to perfection. In Adventures in Babysitting, there's movies like Mystery Date and Fun Size, where they go out and they have like a night and one thing happens after another. But this is top notch. This is such a great movie. Near the end, it starts to get a little cliche and it has some little hints of other movies that you've seen, but maybe that's because I've seen like every high school movie there is, so I don't know. But definitely check out Booksmart. It's kind of brand new on the market. So, well, it's a 2019, like all 2019 films are brand new. So you can find this in the Redbox or probably on cable soon or on your favorite streaming service. Now we're going I don't know why I keep doing that. We're going to go from a high school movie, Booksmart, to another documentary. Is that 3 already? Third documentary. So I do have 4 on my list. 3, and this one's a little heavy. This one's a little serious. I don't think it's heavy, but 2018's Divide and Conquer: The Story of Roger Ailes. Now, when I said the perfect marriage of a fascinating story and good filmmaking, this is it. I mean, this is a story about Roger Ailes, who started his career off in politics and got into the media later. If you don't know who he is, he ended up being like the head of Fox News in his later years. So this starts off back when he was involved with the Nixon presidency, and man, just the filmmaking, like the pace, the tempo, I think I said those words already, but just the way they deliver this story. And again, he's a fascinating subject with all kinds of twists and turns. Whether you like the man or hate him or not, or hate him, this is a fascinating movie, and I feel it's kind of not a biased film. It's just a straightforward account. He was a ruthless man. He had a dark side to him that comes out in the film, so I guess maybe it is a little biased, but depends on how you want to look at that. But man, just a really, really great movie. Really, really fascinating. Divide and Conquer: The Story of Roger Ailes. It is a movie. You can find, I saw a little bit of it on A&E and I was like, wow, this is really cool. I want to see the whole thing. So I went and got the DVD from Netflix. Yes, I still get Netflix DVDs. So the only way I can recommend it is to keep an eye out for it on A&E, but it'll pop up somewhere. It is called Divide and Conquer: The Story of Roger Ailes. Another excellent documentary. We are going to take a mid-show break and talk about some social media issues. Issues? No, not really. I'm just going to plug our dumb social media. Again, I'm not going to worry about it and get all bent out of shape about our social media presence and the listener numbers. But here's what we got. Facebook. You can find us on Facebook. That's probably the best way to learn about the show, I think, and see when the new episodes are coming out. But you can follow us on Facebook. Just type in what's your favorite movie. We have Instagram. Just made me sound like such an old person, didn't it? I have an Instagram at Fave Movie Podcast. I think you can also type in what's your favorite movie. Find us on Twitter at WYF Movie Podcast. And we have the email, favemoviepodcast@yahoo.com. During the break, when I wasn't doing the show and I got a new phone in the process and never bothered to enter the Fave Movie Podcast email into my email app. So when I just did it the other day to get Rev back up, would you like to guess how many emails listeners sent in while we were off the air for 10 months? If your guess is 0, you are correct, and you will win a What's Your Favorite Movie t-shirt. I could go into all the nonsense about like, subscribe, rate, share. These are all great things to help a podcast grow. It doesn't seem to do much good for me to say it, but there it is if you want to do it. But you know what? Listening is good too. Just you listening to this show is all the warmth and goodness I need to keep on trucking with What's Your Favorite Movie? America's somewhat favorite podcast? All right, let's move on back to the list. Here we go with numero 6. Now, this one's a tad bit of a fudge to be on this list. I'm 99% sure I saw this when it came out, and I was like 11 years old. I don't remember a thing about it, so it was brand new to me. And we have to open up the shame file to put this in, because I cannot believe for the last 35 years I have not watched Footloose repeatedly. The 1984 Kevin Bacon classic Footloose. You know it. I'm not introducing you to anything. You don't have to put this on your scorecard, but this goes in my shame file with Karate Kid, which I had only seen recently, or Alien. How was I not watching these movies repeatedly throughout my formative years? Footloose is fantastic. I loved it so much. Now, here's what happened. I remember this because I remember nerd things like this. We were an HBO family growing up, okay? We had HBO. Showtime had all the Paramount movies, so I never really saw a lot of Paramount movies until the VCR age a little bit later. One weekend, Showtime was free. I do believe Friday night or Saturday night, they showed Flashdance. My mom and I watched it. And then the following night, Saturday or Sunday, they showed Footloose. And my mom and I watched that. Not impressed with either of them. I did watch Flashdance again for the first time this year. And that's terrible. That's not a good movie. But Footloose, man, just the 80s in a nutshell. It's just pure 80s goodness. The music, always been a fan of the album, even though I haven't seen the movie. Always been a fan of the soundtrack. The opening credit sequence is just amazing. Footloose, it's 35 years old. I'm not giving you any news about this movie, and you can just find it probably on TV as we speak right now. Sometimes we talk about a movie and it's literally on television as we're recording this podcast. But that is Footloose. Number 6 on the list. We're going to go to number 7. Another movie that a lot of people have seen, but not everybody. And this is a good one from the 80s again. I am kind of new to the world of Studio Ghibli. And if you are not familiar with that, those are the anime films of Hayao Miyazaki. Is his name, the director. I kind of have an aversion to animation, and I might have told this story on the podcast before, but oh well. It's not like you're paying for it. I've always had a block with animation because when I was a kid, and I loved my Saturday morning cartoons, which were mostly Hanna-Barbera, and then the Japanese animation started to come in, which looked different. It looked a little cheaper. It was a little choppier, and I just did not like it. And when Yogi Bear and the Smurfs started getting pushed out of the way for things that looked cheaper, I did not like it. But I will say this. Miyazaki films are absolutely gorgeous to look at. It's not the fluid animation of a Disney film, but it's not the crappy choppy animation of a Voltron or Speed Racer or something like that. No offense to fans of the current Voltron. So did I even say the name of the movie? Kiki's Delivery Service? Did I say it? That's the one I saw earlier this year, and we loved it. It's about a young witch, and she has to go live on her own for a year as part of her witch training. And she has difficulties fitting into a new community. She starts a business as a courier service where she's delivering bakery goods on her broom. And The thing with a Miyazaki film is all the nooks and crannies of the story aren't filled in. Everything doesn't have to make sense. You just accept it for what it is, and it's a really cool film, and all of his films. And then if you just open yourself up to that way of thinking where it's like, okay, this doesn't have to make sense. It is what it is. They're so beautiful. They're so fun. They have, life lessons you can extract from them. Kiki's Delivery Service is really good. I think I had My Neighbor Totoro on a list of my favorite movies from a year or two ago. That's another one. That was my favorite, but this one was really good too. Kiki's Delivery Service. My daughter, who's 6, absolutely loved it. And if you come across this movie, I want to tell you, there's different. So it's a Japanese film. It's spoken in Japanese, but you can obviously find a dubbed version of it. There's 2 dubbed versions. There's the older one that they did back when the movie was made, and the voice cast is just repeating what's said in the movie. And as you ever noticed, to translate Japanese into English, you have to speak the English very fast because of the way the languages match up. So that's why they talk like this sometimes, and they talk very fast. And hey, would you like to come in here and do this? Oh, that's very good, because they got to talk very fast and get it all in. So what Disney did when they got hold of the films later is they assembled a whole team, and they did this very caringly and very thoughtfully and respectfully, is they went through and translated it to English with the meaning, but changed the words so that the actors could perform it in a more natural pace, if that makes sense. So if you get the 2000s dub, which stars Kirsten Dunst and Phil Hartman, Debbie Reynolds, you will get a very beautiful translation of the movie where it's not a literal word for word, but it means the same thing. But they're able to slow it down and talk in a natural tone and candor that we're used to, so it sounds like, a movie and not like a silly old cartoon from the 80s or whatever. Did that make sense? I hope it did. It's called Kiki's Delivery Service, and it is going to be streaming on HBO Max when HBO Max debuts later this year. The whole Miyazaki library will be available to stream for the first time. There's also a thing called Ghibli Fest that Fathom Events does at movie theaters. So later in this year, they will probably announce, and you will have a chance to see Kiki's Delivery Service on the big screen, along with Spirited Away and My Neighbor Totoro and Ponyo and all his other great movies. So that's Kiki's Delivery Service. Moving on to number 8. This was one of my absolute favorites of the year, and I wasn't expecting it to be, but I wanted to see. Here's another documentary. Is it the last documentary on the list? It is. The 4th documentary. This is out of nowhere, but so they made a documentary about Mike Wallace. You know Mike Wallace from 60 Minutes. So this film that came out January of last year, called Mike Wallace is Here, is a documentary about Mike Wallace. I think the main reason I wanted to see it was because the Mr. Rogers documentary was so good, and I just wanted to see like another, maybe somebody who I wasn't as passionate about, just see how a film about their life would be, And man, was this movie bonkers captivating. Here's a guy that we know from 60 Minutes. That's all I knew him from, was hosting 60 Minutes. I'm Mike Wallace. And this movie uses old television clips, and it shows he used to host game shows. He used to do commercials. I think he did like a dance show like Dick Clark way back. I love old clips of television. That's the best. Stuff that you don't see, not just like a episode of Happy Days, but old 40s, late 40s, 50s television that you just don't see anymore. And he also invented the style of what became modern talk shows like Morton Downey Jr. and what's his name, Jerry Springer, in a less trashy, confrontational way. But he was the one who started asking tough questions. TV in the 50s was very sedate and mild, and he pushed the boundaries of that. What stands at the center of this film for me that was just like literally on the edge of your seat, documentary filmmaking was all this raw footage and the actual footage used of Mike Wallace interviewing the Ayatollah Khomeini, the ruler of Iran. And I don't know a whole lot about his history and his deal, but the Ayatollah, that is. But him in this room in Iran with all these people around the Ayatollah, and it is tense. It is insane. I don't know how much of what's in the movie was on the actual 60 minutes. There's a little confrontation. It's crazy. Was such a great movie. And my son, who is 16 and doesn't even know Mike Wallace from 60 Minutes, just, hey, Dad says, let's watch this movie. He saw the Mr. Rogers one too. He watched it not knowing any of these people, and he thought it was fascinating too. So Mike Wallace is here. You might have a hard time finding it. I think it's on Hulu, and you can rent it on all the different streaming services. But man, oh man, when Mike Wallace is here, you should pay attention. Let's move to the last two on our list. Number 9, this movie came out in December of 2018. I caught it right after Christmas. Stan and Ollie. Again, I love Laurel and Hardy. I think we've talked about my love of classic film comedy. Stan and Ollie stars Stephen Coogan playing Stan Laurel and John C. Reilly playing Oliver Hardy. They don't just play Oliver and Hardy, they inhabit them. I mean, you forget you're not watching the actual Laurel and Hardy. That's how good they are in this film. I used to watch Laurel and Hardy when I was a kid. It came on right before The Muppet Show on Baltimore TV, like not reruns, but just old, they would just have old episodes or old films packaged into episodes. For some reason, my parents hated me watching Laurel and Hardy. I think they just didn't understand why I wanted to watch film from the 1930s, but they didn't prevent me from watching it. They were just like, why are you watching this? Loved it. Always loved it. And what I love about this movie, and it reminds me of, and I'm sure there's plenty of movies like this, the one that comes to mind for me is Saving Mr. Banks, is where they take somebody famous, like Laurel and Hardy or Walt Disney, and they tell a story from their life. So this isn't Stan and Ollie, their life story. This is about one specific incident in their life and a whole story about what happened near the end of their career and some betrayal that happened. And it just follows this one story, and it stays nice and focused while you still get a sense of what they were as the big picture as far as their film career and their place in pop culture at the time. And man, it was just really good. Stan and Ollie. It is kind of newish again. It's on Starz and Hulu, so you can check that out and see for yourself what you think. That's how movies work. You watch it and see what you think. You don't have to agree with me. I'm just giving you a list of movies. And we are going to wrap it up here at number 10. Producer Brian told me once that I didn't need to announce that I was taking a drink when I do, but I feel like I do because I feel like you can tell, and I'm not going to edit it out. So cheers to those 9 movies. Here's to number 10. Probably my favorite narrative film of the year, and it just happened to come at the end of my alphabetical list. From April of 2019, it was Unicorn Store. Have you seen the Unicorn Store? This is starring and directed by Brie Larson, also known as Captain Marvel. And man, this was a great movie. In this movie, Brie Larson it has some dead-end jobs. She has some jobs she hates or whatever. She's just kind of miserable with life, looking for what her purpose is. And through some fantasy magical happenings, she is told that she is going to receive a unicorn. And this movie is about her getting ready to receive her unicorn. If that sounds weird, it is a little weird, but you have to watch this movie and figure out what's real, what's maybe not real, what does this mean, what does that mean. It's a film of self-discovery. It's about taking chances. It's a movie that is filled with innocence and definitely has a fantasy element, but it's grounded in the real world. I just really liked it. I don't want to go point by point in the story, but I think this was just a beautiful movie. Unicorn Store. It's on Netflix. It premiered as a Netflix film, so you can easily find that if you have the Netflix. So again, Brie Larson's in it. Also Samuel L. Jackson, Joan Cusack, Bradley Whitford. Great supporting cast. Love him. There's this guy in it named Mamadou Ache. He was also in The Front Runner, and he's in Underwater right now. He was awesome. I really, really enjoyed his performance. He plays her friend, or I guess a guy she kind of likes. And man, you just got to see Unicorn Store. It's a great movie. If a movie about a girl getting a unicorn sounds interesting, and it's not a kid's movie, although it is PG and it is fine for kids to watch. It has a few S-bombs in it, but really, really nice movie, Unicorn Store. Probably my favorite narrative film of the year. So that was Unicorn Story. So there you go. There's my 10 favorite films that I saw in 2019. What did you think? Did you have some favorite movies in 2019? Podcasts are supposed to be a two-way street where you send info back to the host and then you have a little chit-chat or some feedback. So go ahead on Facebook or Twitter or wherever we are and tell us what your favorite film discoveries are of 2019. They could be a movie from 1920. It's all good. Anywhere in between. Doesn't have to be something brand new. Whatever you saw and liked, let us know. We'll share it with the gang. The What's Your Favorite Movie gang. We need a little name like the, like a, I don't know, like Parrot Heads. The WYF mode. I'm going to stop right now. All right. Hey, we did it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining us on What's Your Favorite Movie. In case you didn't know, if you're just joining us for the first time, you can find us on iTunes, Spreaker, Spotify, anywhere that delicious podcasts are served. And go ahead and subscribe. That would help us out, and it will get you the latest episodes when they hopefully drop out in a timely manner. Here's something new. If you want to be a guest on the show, if you want to hang out here at the What's Your Favorite Movie Studios and talk about movies, we can do that. Reach out to us through Twitter or Facebook or whatever, the email, or if you have a show idea, say, we're going to do some shows. You know how we used to do the shows where we would do like favorite food movies or favorite, I don't know what else we did. Favorite something movies, Hitchcock movies, directors. If you have a show idea, send it in. If you don't want to be on the show, that's fine. But maybe we'll take that and run with it and put something together. All right, there you go, folks. That was a podcast. That was a new episode for 2020 of What's Your Favorite Movie. Thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next time. As always, it's khaki wishes and cookie dreams. So long, everybody.